My name is Tiffany Rankin, and I work for Maloney and Novotny, which is the accounting firm for OHHA. But in addition, the Delaware Ag Society is also my client, but I also serve on the board, and I work with pretty much exclusively with Tom Wright on all racing matters. So I'm very familiar with your industry, just inside and out. And so I'm happy to do this for you guys. So several of the things that we're going to talk about went into effect yesterday, and a big one goes into effect tomorrow morning. Well, I should say currently it's into effect tomorrow morning. The banks are working with the federal government as we speak to decide what that means. So we will see if it happens tomorrow morning, but we will go over that. We're going to cover a lot of things in this short period of time. So one thing I want to know, if you go to our website, maloneynovotny.com, we have a dedicated COVID-19 section where we're everything that we're staying up to date on it daily and offering communication about it. So please feel free to go there and check the material out, because I'm going to cover a lot and you're not going to remember it, and that's okay. So the first thing that I want to cover is there was an act that came out. It's been a week now. So last Thursday, the president signed something called the CARES Act. There were a lot of provisions in the CARES Act. The big one that I want to talk about first is something called the Payroll Protection Program. So depending on what type of business you are, it actually does qualify for all of you, whether you have a business, whether you are an independent contractor, or whether you are self-employed. All of those things, as long as you're basically making money at some level and you employ less than 500 people, you qualify for this. So what this is something that is being administered through the federal government, but being handled through banks. So depending on what bank you bank through, pretty much they're all doing it. Whether it be Huntington, Chase, Fifth Third, Key, PNC, your local bank, most of them are participating in this program. And what the program says, the gist of the program is that you can get a loan that can be forgivable, tax-free from the federal government, well, guaranteed by the federal government. And what the point of the whole thing is so that you keep yourself and your people employed and you keep the lights on. So as I go through this, please remember that. The point is to the people that you pay, whether you pay them as an employee on a W-2 or whether you give them a 1099 as a trainer or a groom or what have you, the point of all of this is to keep them employed. Now, I know that currently, and Renee's doing a great job of keeping you all updated on this, the Race Commission has still said that as far as there's no racing going on, but as far as your horses on the track being able to go out and jog them and train them, that's still all going on. So to the extent that you have people still doing that, obviously, hopefully you're still paying them. But to the extent that you can't or you've had to reduce that, this program is available to you. I will say this program goes live tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock so far, and it is a first-come, first-served basis. It is a program through the federal government. It's a $349 billion program. It's called the Paycheck Protection Program. What it is a calculation based on your payroll, and there's a definition of payroll where you can include several things. You take that number over the prior 12 months. You take that number over the prior 12 months. You do an annual average of it. You take that number, and that can include retirement contribution and health insurance. You take that number and multiply by 2.5 or $250,000. That is the amount of the loan that you are eligible for. And so let's say that you get that loan, you get approved for that tomorrow because it goes live tomorrow at 9 a.m. through your bank. So starting tomorrow for the next 8 weeks, To the extent that you spend that money on keeping your people employed, whether that's payroll or if you're a contractor, you're paying rent, whether it's stall rent or rent on stables or, whatever you're paying rent on, as well as and utilities. As long as you do that, the total amount of that over the next 8 weeks will be forgiven tax-free from the bank. So the loan is forgiven and there is no tax obligation on that. So let's say for simple math, you do this equation and you are eligible for $50,000. And over the next 8 weeks, you spend $30,000 of that 50 on payroll, whether it be people on actual payroll or contractors that you give a 1099 to, as well as rent, utilities, and interest on mortgages. If that equates to $30,000, that gets forgiven to you free of charge. The remaining $20,000 then becomes a regular loan. And I will say there is a difference currently, which is why we don't have finalization of this. There's a difference between what the bill said and what the SBA said. Either way, the bottom line is that number turns into a loan that is payable over a period of time at a very low interest rate. So almost like an interest-free loan. So I will say with that, it is a first come, first served basis. In my world, we've been working nonstop around the clock for the past 10 days, trying to figure out what this means, reconciling between what the bill said and what the SBA said, and they're very different, working with our banks to try and get our clients lined up with this. I will say all the banks are waiting at bated breath to hear what the actual guidance is from the federal government. And I'm hoping that that's going to come out in another hour or so, because this is supposed to go live tomorrow morning. It's a first come, first served basis. And based on what we know, most banks are requiring it to be done electronically. So some of the information you have to provide are your computation on how you come up with your number and proof of how you came up with that. Outside of that, a lot of banks are asking for a lot of things that we do not believe are applicable, but again, we actually don't know. So I would encourage you, if you are, if you're out there, and whether you're a business that employs people, whether you're self-employed or what have you, you are all eligible for it. So I would reach out to your accountant. I know it's 6 o'clock at night, but I would reach out or talk to your bank. Again, we know that it's first come, first served, but we have also heard through unofficial routes that there's going to be another round of funding for this, because we do believe that this money is going to go very quickly. The caveat with it is, if you have previously laid off people because of the downturn, because of COVID, the point again is to keep your people employed, whether they can work or not. So if you are able to receive funds from this, and you have laid off people in the last month and a half, you need to bring, whether it's them or another person, back onto payroll. You need to get back to pretty much where you were. I mean, I'm generally speaking here, but this is the gist of it. So you have until June 30th to get your employment level back to where it was. So the point is not that you apply for these funds and get them and then don't keep people on payroll. So that is one very important part of this act that goes into effect supposedly in the morning. Again, we'll see how this goes, but supposedly that's going in effect in the morning. Now, there are other parts of the bill that it's called there's a bunch of parts, but the other part is called the emergency disaster loan section. And Renee and I have chatted about this. As you know, your industry sometimes gets excluded from some of these things. Based on what we know right now, the other form of funding that you can get through the disaster loan section falls back on regular SBA lending rules. And at this time, it is our opinion, and I hope that's subject to change, but at the moment, it's not. that the agricultural industry, as well as the gaming, as well as other industries, including gaming, don't qualify for this. So again, we are still trying to figure out if that's actually the case, but at this time, the disaster loan section of this bill, the agricultural industry and/or gaming and others, we don't believe at this point that you qualify for. I'm happy to be wrong on that, but I don't think so. Okay, so I am going to continue to move on here. The next area is, should you, let's see, I'm going on off of our website. So the CARES Act for businesses. So should you not get this PPP, the Paycheck Protection Loan, which again, it's first come, first serve, and $349 billion sounds like a lot of money, but that will go quickly across the U.S. So should you not get that, there are other options for you to receive relief. One of them is the Employee Retention Credit, which is something that says, if, in a nutshell, if you have less than 100 employees and you have a significant reduction in revenue, or you've been shut down because of COVID matters, you can receive a 50% credit off of your payroll taxes up to $5,000 per employee. So it's not immediate money for you like this loan would be, but if you, once you're back in operational, or if you are staying operational and you're paying people, you can get a credit, a refundable credit, which is free money off of your payroll taxes. In addition, you can also get a deferment on a part of your payroll taxes through 2021 and 2022. So again, if you are not able to get this PPP loan, which again we expect that a lot of people will not, because it's going to go very quickly, there are still options for you to save money or defer money for keeping people employed. There are other provisions under this act related to businesses, and a lot of them have to do with the tax reform that was part of 2018. A lot of the provisions in tax reform have been removed and made retroactive back to 2018. So again, I don't know any of your specific cases, but please know that there are things that if you were affected by negatively in 2018, it's possible that has now gone away and it can be fixed for 18 and applied in 2019. Let's see, what else here? Okay. At the individual level, I don't know how much is there. At the individual level, in case you didn't know, in the coming weeks, depending on your adjusted gross income based on your either 2018 or 2019 filing, you're eligible, depending on family size, married, oh shoot, where'd that go? Married, if you're single and your income, your adjusted gross income is under $75,000, you will get $1,200 of a rebate credit. If you are married filing jointly under 150, you'll get $2,400, and then you get $500 for each of your dependents. So there is stimulus money coming if you fall below certain income levels. Based on what we know, that will be coming in the next 3 weeks. If the IRS has your direct deposit information on account, based on prior tax filings, it will be direct deposit. If not, you'll get it in the form of a paper check. The IRS has also indicated that in the coming days, they will have a portal set up on their website, irs.gov, where you can go and provide your banking information so that you can receive it electronically, which will be quicker and more secure, because currently our mail is given what we're going through, our mail is a little slow at the moment. Okay. There are a handful of other items in the individual area, nothing overall significant. Something else to note, in case you have not heard, April 15th is no longer a thing this year. April 15th is now July 15th. So if you have not filed your tax return yet, or if you have and you owe money, you do not have to file or pay until July 15th. And in doing that, there is no penalty or interest for waiting to file or pay. In addition, if you make quarterly estimates, your first quarter of 2020 estimate, both at the federal and the Ohio, both at federal, Ohio, and the city level and school district, all levels, are not due until July 15th. Currently, the second quarter is still due June 15th, but we think that that's just a technical error that will correct itself. So as of yesterday, any returns that are due April 15th, any income tax returns due April 15th, the states have all followed suit. So if you file in multiple states, which I know based on the industry you probably do, all states have adopted that April 15th is now no longer a thing, that has gotten pushed off until, generally speaking, July 15th. Okay, the next thing to go over is something called the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. So we just call it the Family First Act. So this is kind of a big one, and it's new. It's a two-parter. The first one is, if you have people that are on your payroll starting yesterday, and even if they started yesterday, they still qualify for this. So if you are somebody that employs people, if you have an employee that is affected by the coronavirus, meaning they are diagnosed with it and have to be quarantined or given an isolation order, or they are advised by a healthcare provider to self-quarantine, or experiencing symptoms in which they are seeking diagnosis. If you have any of those cases with anybody that you employ, you are, regardless of your size, well, you have to be under 500 employers, but let's assume you are. You are required to pay them 80 hours of sick leave through the rest of the year. The amount that you are required to pay them, is their regular rate, but capped at a maximum of $511 a day. So that's about $5,100 a week. So the max would be roughly 10 grand. Also, if you employ people that have to take off and cannot work from home because they are caring for somebody that is subject to quarantine or isolation, or more commonly right now is that they have to care for their children because school break is now extended till May 1st. And they cannot work from home, you are also required to pay them sick leave up to 80 hours a week, up to 80 hours. The maximum is 2/3 of their pay at a cap of $200 a day. So those are new and those are required. And there is a form or a document that's required to be printed and included somewhere in your workspace, just like your workers' comp thing would be, regarding this. The other area that got expanded, and this only applies to folks that employ more than 50 people. It expands what the definition of family medical leave is. So if you are somebody that employs more than 50 people, and you have an employee that cannot work from home, that has to be home and cannot work from home because they are caring for a dependent who cannot go to school because there's no school or there is no daycare, you have to provide them up to 12 weeks of job protected leave 12 weeks of job protected leave. The first 10 days of that are not paid. The remaining period of time for that is paid. It's 2/3 of their normal pay rate, not to exceed $200 a day. So I know both of those things sound very onerous and expensive, but the good news is if you have to comply with either of those and you have to pay that, you get a direct credit off of your payroll tax for it. So I know you're coming out of pocket for it, but you also get a reduction in your payroll tax for it. So it's not as frightening as possibly maybe it sounds. Okay. Next, this is new. This is something, it's not payroll tax related or income tax related, but it's something called business interruption claims. If your liability coverage that you have for your business includes something called a business interruption clause. So in your policy, if you have business interruption insurance, the governor has indicated, this is not a federal thing, this is an Ohio thing, multiple state thing, Ohio was one of them. The governor has indicated that the COVID-19 pandemic does qualify as a natural disaster and would qualify for business interruption insurance. So what we have indicated to clients, if you have that in your business liability clause, go ahead and file a claim. Currently, the insurance providers are denying it, but as we move down the road, we are hopeful that that will change, and at least you will have your claim filed to get in on the money.
Tiffany, I'm sorry, this is Amy Holler again. Some people have joined the call. They didn't hear you originally mention about putting your phones on mute. And we're getting a lot of feeds. So if you could announce that again, please.
Yeah. So guys, again, thank you all for joining us. We have 60 people on the call, and so if you haven't already put your phone on mute, if you could do that just so that everybody could hear, because I know we're all trying to listen and be quiet, but background noise it can be challenging. So if we could all put our phone on mute during this, and then when it's time for Q&A, certainly we'll open it up. So thank you for that. Thank you, Amy. Okay, moving on to a few other items that are applicable at the Ohio level. Let me go to that so I don't miss any. Let's see. Okay, so on our website we have a link to various state tax filing changes, and we have links to the Ohio or the American Institute of CPAs, the AICPA. They have a very nice chart there that if you click on the hyperlink, it will take you to a document that is growing voluminously by the day, but it tells you what every state is doing from a tax standpoint as it relates to this. There's also a link to the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services, which we will talk about next as far as unemployment and who qualifies. There's a link to the Ohio Department of Health at just various, there's just various links there about the things that the governor and the health director talk about, as well as workers' comp. So what I will start with is saying that from the unemployment level, whether you employ people, or more importantly, if you are a sole proprietor or unemployed or self-employed, sole proprietor, self-employed, or an independent contractor, in my tax world, they all mean the same thing. They mean something a little different in this context, but if basically you're self-employed, never before were you eligible to collect unemployment because you've never paid into it. If you've paid into it for your employees, they can collect it, but you as the self-employed business owner have not been able to. So I believe over the weekend, Governor DeWine signed into law and adopting the federal mandate that Ohio is now allowing self-employed people, sole proprietors, to register and collect unemployment. That is, I have been looking we have at the firm, the last couple of days, as far as a sole proprietor goes, or a self-employed individual, what the definition of unemployed means, and through now we have not found that definition. Does it mean that your all income has stopped? Does it mean that your income has significantly diminished, or some other type of variable? So those are all questions that we are trying to find the answers to, and those have not been published yet, based on what we can find. But at a minimum, if you are deemed to be unemployed as a self-employed individual, you can now go and apply for benefits. Well, you will be. I don't think the portal for that at the state level is quite yet available, but once it is, you will be able to apply for that. You will be able to qualify for Ohio unemployment benefits at a certain level, in addition to the additional $600 per week amount that the federal government is giving through July. So that's something completely new in the state of Ohio, that if you are finding hardship and deemed to be unemployed as a self-employed person, you are now eligible for. In addition, if you are an employer that pays workers' comp for your employees, you can push off your worker comp claims, your worker comp, I'm sorry, not your claims, your premiums. Your March, April, and May premiums do now not have to be paid until June 1st, as well as your state unemployment. So the state unemployment, which we just finished up 2 days ago with our first quarter of 2020, the state is now not requiring that to be filed or paid by April 30th. As we speak, they have not given a date. They have just said that they will not impose penalty or interest for late filing or late payment. Let's see, what else do we have? Yeah, so again, on our website, I know a lot of you race in various states. So what we tried to capture were some of the states that most of our clients do business in. Again, it's been every day it changes, but based on what we know right now, pretty much every state has adopted what the federal is doing. So that was helpful, because originally they weren't, and oh my goodness, what a headache. So I think overall, actually that went quicker than what I thought, but overall that's what I wanted to go over. So I think there's probably maybe a lot of questions. So if we want to take those phones off of mute and ask the questions, I will certainly do my best to answer your questions.
Hey, this is Rod. So I've got a few questions from people that were watching my live stream.
Okay.
So we'll just go one by one, I guess.
Okay. Okay.
First one is, what if you don't pay a payroll tax?
So you don't have any employees?
Either cash employees or they don't have any employees.
Okay, so let's not talk about cash employees, because I am a CPA. But if you don't have employees, but you still earn income on your own, you are still eligible to file. So let's assume that if you don't have any employees, but you have a business, and you file, whether you file that on a Schedule F on your tax return or a Schedule C, those are the two that it should be. Let's say it's on one of those, then that bottom line income that you pay tax on is eligible for this Paycheck Protection Program, as well as unemployment and all the other things. That would be what you would use so that's capped at $100,000. So let's say if you're you're a trainer that makes, and you're self-employed and you don't have any employees, and you make $120,000 a year. I'm just, rough numbers. The max you can count is $100,000. You take that $100,000, you divide it by 12, and you multiply it by 250%. That gets you about 20 grand. So in this PPP program, you would be eligible for 20 grand. Now, whether you get it or not, I don't know, because it's first come, first serve. But people that are self-employed and don't have employees are still eligible for this program. They also are if they don't get into the program, they are also still eligible for deferment of some portion of their tax. It's not a full deferment, but it's a portion based on a certain amount of payroll, a certain amount of self-employed payroll tax that they pay.
Okay,
Go ahead, Rob.
So, well, how far back do the payroll, the payroll records have to go to be able to possibly get accepted for one of these loans?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So it's one of two things. The bill and the SBA are differing. It's either calendar year 2019 or it's the prior 12 months from when you apply for the loan. So there's a difference of opinion on there. The bill says the prior 12 months. The SBA came out on Tuesday night and said calendar year 2019.
All right, whoever was going to jump in there, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask what she was saying. What if you have a loss on your Schedule C?
Well, that's a good question, and I will. Yeah, I mean, and I know that that's common. I know that that's common. You know, the horse industry is a hard industry, so I think if you have a loss on it, that's a great question. We haven't been asked that yet, but my opinion, unvalidated, would be that if you have a loss, you could at least include, if you paid anybody anything, whether it be on a 1099 or as an employee, you could include that, and you can include any health insurance that you paid for yourself.
Okay.
I don't know if that's just, I'm thinking through it because we haven't been posed that question before, but I think that could, I mean, so you would default your loss to a 0. You could add back in there the health insurance you paid, any wages or 1099 payments you made to people that helped you, and any retirement contribution you made. So that would be my answer, unofficial.
Would that be the same as if you were filing for the unemployment side that you said? Because if you're like I am, just self-employed, it's just that's a great question. And based on as far as the unemployment piece goes, there is no guidance out right now as to what constitutes your income for Ohio unemployment. I'm not aware that you can add back in those other things. I think it's just based on your earnings, but truthfully, I don't know the answer to that because it's brand new as of the weekend and they have not published anything about that. Okay, but they haven't even opened up the porthole you said for that to file for that, correct?
As of this morning, that's a true statement.
Okay. Thank you.
So another question I got, where do owners fall in line as far as paying trainers? Because that's technically not paying a payroll, that's paying a fee or a service fee.
So the trainers get paid on whether it be a 1099 or a W-2, correct?
Right.
Okay, so those count. You can add those in.
Yep.
Okay. Questions from other people?
Pardon me?
Are you going to be taking other questions from other people? I know Rod's got a ton of questions. I've just got one question.
Yeah, jump in.
Hi, Rod. Hi, Amy. Hi, Frankie. Hi, everybody in Ohio. Eric Potters, the Horseman's Voice based out of Chicago. I've composed a letter with a couple links. One is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. There's a link from the SBA, as well as the COVID-19 relief.sba.gov link, and the Payroll Protection Program. People are going to be scrambling in the morning to be applying for the $700 billion plus in loans. Is there a way that you can compile some type of a PDF with some type of information with links that people can jump onto tonight so they could be ready to file these things first thing in the morning? Because it's going to be a grab and go for the horsemen. And, I've heard also there's a USDA link as well, if you could try to compose that in that PDF as well and disseminate that information to the Ohio horsemen, and then have Amy or somebody else disseminate that to the other horsemen's associations across the country. Can we do that?
Good question. So I will say that that this program is being administered. So the two parts. So the
EIDL program, the emergency program, the EIDL program, as I spoke about earlier, at this point, I'm not confident that the agriculture/gaming industry qualifies for. We're still looking into that because the language is fairly vague in the bill. But as far as the Paycheck Protection Program, the $349 billion one goes, unfortunately, that is where we sit right now. There is no official guidance. The banks starting, it's going to be administered through the banks. So what I would recommend is whoever your bank is that you do your banking with, contact. I know they're all working now. They probably are all on a call. Reach out to them and get on their list, because over the last 3 days, the banks are all over the place on what they're speculating needs to be provided. But we have not received anything official from any lender as to what needs to be required, what is required, and how to facilitate it. We do understand that it's going to be electronic through a web portal. Since it's largely payroll based, we are recommending that clients get together their calculation, which is over the past 12 months, payroll divided by 12 plus insurance roughly times 250%, including payments they've made on a 1099 to people that are doing work for them. But that also includes any payroll documents. We've seen that you need financial records, financial statements, which we're not sure that's required, but some have brought that up. So unfortunately, nothing that we can provide right at this moment that is the boilerplate of what the lenders are going to require. What I do encourage, reach out to your lender now if you have not done it, and let them know that you want on the list. So as soon as they know what is required, they can fire that off to you so you can get it ready.
Okay, you didn't answer my question. I appreciate the long-winded, answer to my question, but I was saying it's going to be a grab and go first thing in the morning. Can you provide some type of a list tonight in the form of a PDF that can be disseminated through the Horseman Network in Ohio as well as across the country? We're a very small community, if you're aware of that, and people can disseminate information quickly via social media, text messaging, what have you, so we can start to apply.
Eric, this is Amy, and Tiffany is just I'm not just saying just is, but we would have to do this. Actually, the OHHA website has several links already that you're speaking of, but it's not really Tiffany's responsibility to disseminate that information. We can through the OHHA and have already done so, and we'll try to update that.
Yeah, and I would say, I think what I sent her, I believe I sent her I mean, I did send, I think what you have up there is what the U.S. Treasury sent out, the SBA actual application. So that can give you a guide. But what I will say, all the banks we're talking with are saying, do not use that. We're going to have our own. So I'm sorry to be very vague about it, but that's where it is.
I'm listening to the White House press pool right now, and they're saying this money is going to go very quickly. So
it is going. You're absolutely right.
It'll be gone in 2 hours. Maybe
I think, assuming the system doesn't crash, I would say 2 minutes. But I know
There's no way it's almost an impossible, and I'm not trying to be pessimistic here, guys, but it's going to be very difficult by the time you're at the banks in the morning to do this and to get in to see whatever you need to do to get all this stuff done, and it's going to be gone by the flip of your fingers. Because some of these banks around you can't even get into with the order in Ohio already. If you know that already, some of the banks have closed, only doing drive-through. It's very hard. You got to know what bank is where they're at that are going to accept all this.
Yeah, all our banks in Xenia are closed except for you can go.
Yeah, I don't see how you got a shot in Ohio to get into a bank tomorrow morning.
You would have to know a banker, guys.
You don't.
What?
You would have to know a banker.
Yeah, you're going to have to know somebody. You're right. You're going to have.
I don't
sorry.
interrupt you to instead of keep on
That pass.
I did not hear what you said there. Hello?
Well, I think so. So I'm not disagreeing with. I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, but I do think whoever you bank with, I would go to their website, and you're right. In Ohio, we have a stay-at-home order which has now been extended to April 30th or May 1st. But please go to their website, and as soon as they have actual direct guidance from the federal government, which I'm monitoring my email right now. I have not gotten information on that. They will all have web portals where you can go and get that. And I know the OHHA website has been posting as best they can, and once they know it, that things that are needed. It might be overkill, but you know what, guys? It's better than not having enough.
Oh, that's true. I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I joke, like, we work remotely from our firm now. Today's my day in the office, and oh my God, I'm so happy to be out of my house. But I've been on my cell phone from I've used my cell phone more in the last 10 days, I think, than I probably have ever had a cell phone. Just trying to help people understand this, because there's so many things. But please know that if you don't get this PPP, and once we find more out about the disaster loan program, if you guys can get it, please know that there are other options. As it's not current money, but it is refundable credits, and it's on, as far as payroll goes, or deferment of paying your tax. So it's not like there's nothing. I know that getting free money sounds really sexy and is exciting and very hopeful, but you're right. This money is going to go very quickly.
I think a lot of these horsemen owners and trainers. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, kind of basically on that same subject with paying employees, most trainers anyways, don't pay an hourly wage. They pay a weekly wage to take care of the horses and things like that. Does that affect the paid sick leave, I guess, addition that they've kind of put in there?
No. So if I understand you correctly, you're saying, so no, it's not an hour. Well, so what I think you would do in that instance, if you pay whatever you paid your trainer for the week, you would break that down on an hourly rate, and whatever that amount is would be how you would factor if in fact they were subject to, got infected with COVID, God forbid, then that would be what you would use. So if it's $500, if it's $500 a week, you divide that by however many hours they worked for the week, and that would be your hourly rate that you would base their sick pay off of.
For sick pay.
So another question I got is, can a self-employed individual file unemployment if they have any employees at all?
Can a self-employed individual file for unemployment if they have employees? So again, there isn't any guidance about that, but my answer would be yes, if they can determine that they are in fact unemployed, they as the owner, because they're, either not bringing in revenue, or whatever the definition. Hopefully soon, Ohio will come out with what that definition is, or the federal government in general, to know what being unemployed at the self-employed level means. And I don't think that it matters. My opinion is that does not matter that you have employees, because if you have employees, you should be paying into state unemployment for them anyway. So your employees should already be allowed to collect unemployment if they qualify. This is more at the owner level.
So at the owner level, so I own a couple of racehorses in Ohio and in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
I also have a job outside of racing.
Okay.
That I can pay for things for. But as far as my ownership in racehorses, how does that qualify as far as unemployment goes, and if my trainer were to get sick or something like that.
Yeah, no, that's a great, and I feel so sorry that I don't have answers to all these questions. I mean, that's a great question. And there's this new ability for the quote unquote self-employed to claim unemployment benefits. There's no guidance for it, and there's no definition. So my advice would be to stay tuned. I would say if you go to our website and go to the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services link, that's a live FAQ update. It's a live feed. So I go to that pretty regularly, and I went to it today to check on these things, and there still is nothing about it. So my advice would be to continue to check that. And what I can do, and I don't know if Renee's on the call or not, but Amy, I can certainly do this. Once we know what the heck the rules are, I will give it to you and you can post it.
Well, that would be helpful.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
Yeah,
we will absolutely do that.
Yeah, okay, yes, thank you very much, Tiffany. We will
do that
as soon as you've got it.
Yeah.
What is your website?
The website is www.maloney, MALONEY, Novotny, NOV as in Victor, OTNY.com. If you miss the spelling, it's in the conference call link.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I would just, we're at it, like, if any of you are our clients, you're not getting your taxes done right now because we're spending all of our time dedicated to this. So I promise that whatever is the most current information, we are updating it regularly on the website. But again, as soon as we know a lot of these, I'm taking really good notes, and as soon as we get more information on anything, whether that be tonight at 10 o'clock when the SBA finally tells the banks what to do about this PPP program, or the Ohio unemployment for self-employed or whatever, we'll post it, but then I will send it to OHHA and they can put it on their website.
Now, most of the horsemen are self-employed. So do they got to file for unemployment through the state and through the Fed?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Most of the horsemen, I think, are self-employed. Do you have to file for the unemployment through the state and the federal, or just the state?
Good question. So currently the web portal is not up for that based on today, but my belief is that it once you apply for it through the Ohio portal, the federal, you don't have to do it in both places. It's just a given that the unemployment period has been expanded to 39 weeks, and it includes $600 of federal assistance per week through sometime in July. I am not aware that you have to do it in both places.
Okay, but right now you can do it through the federal place, but not the Ohio right yet, right?
Oh, good question. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I'll have to check.
Okay. But you'll put that stuff on the website, right?
I will, yeah. Again, anything that we've discussed today, once we get more definitive information, yes, we will send it to Renee and or Amy, and they will post it.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
My question, what do you consider being unemployed? Because if you're a trainer and still getting paid by an owner, the trainer is still getting money, but the owner is not if you stop the racing. So what is, or if you happen to be an owner trainer, you're the owner trainer and you own all of it, what does it consist of? Because some trainers might be still being paid by their owners. There's no race, but there's just no racing going on.
Right.
So where's the loss?
Correct. That's right. That's a great, again, I think the crux, and I knew this going into it because I know the industry fairly well, that not having the definition for you guys of what unemployment means to the self-employed was crucial, right? And that definition currently does not exist. I'm sure it will, but we don't know that. That doesn't exist now. So, but again, as soon as we know it, we will share it.
Okay.
Most of them want to know.
Well, that's what I want to know.
Yeah, that's
Because
I knew that was going to be a big question, and I looked into it this afternoon right before this, so I could, if it had come out yet, we could define it for you. And please know, we have lots of self-employed people, not just horse people, as clients, and they're all asking the same question. Is it no revenue? Is it a diminishing revenue? This affects so many people. And since this is brand new as of Saturday, or Sunday or Monday, I don't know what day, there's just no definition for it yet.
That's what
that we found. So.
Because you said agricultural doesn't have anything to do with this. I mean, it could really come down to, who's going to feed these animals. That's what I'm worried about, is how many animals are going to end up being left behind.
Yeah. I know.
People don't have no access to nothing.
Well, but I think the only thing that has been disallowed is the racing. As far as going out and and I obviously know that the money to pay the trainers comes from the I know where largely that comes from, and unfortunately, if we can't race, there's a lack of funds to pay the trainers, but it is still allowable. And even on our fairgrounds in Delaware, we have, tons of horses, and we have a bunch coming back from Florida. We're still keeping the track maintained, and the trainers are still allowed to come out and run the horses and jog the horses out and take care of the animals. But you're right. It's
feed them.
Pardon me?
That don't feed them.
Tiffany, I'm sorry. Tiffany, I'm sorry. I was just sent this message, and if you said it earlier, I apologize for asking. The grooms that were 1099'd that are basically unemployed, is there an income requirement for them to file the unemployment?
I'm sorry. I don't know since it's all
okay.
I don't know. Again,
it's a wait and see.
It is. It sure is. And I don't even think, again, the portal, I don't even think is up yet for this. But again, as soon as
it's not.
Yeah, as soon as we know, and there are three of us on that, the local state and local part of it. And so we know that that's a big issue. Between the CPP that goes live tomorrow morning and the state unemployment thing, those are big deals. And so as soon as we know either, we will post it on the website, and we will get it to OHHA to post so that you guys, I think I will probably, I don't know if you guys go to the OFMA website, the Ohio Fair Managers Association, but we'll put it there also. That way you can have multiple sources of information to get the benefits immediately, get working on that immediately as soon as we know.
Especially if that porthole comes up, because that could come up at any time.
Yeah. And, I listen to a bunch of us, as we all do, we listen to the governor's 2 p.m. and, Lieutenant Governor Husted is the one that kind of talks about this one. And there hasn't been any information out of the original announcement that was going to happen. There hasn't been anything about it yet.
Do you know if unemployment is even taking claims from horsemen?
Self-employed horsemen?
Has any horseman tried to apply?
I don't know that would be a question for the group. I don't know that. I know that I've had two others. They're not horsemen, but I asked one of them. She's a nurse. She's in the nursing field, and I asked her to be my test dummy to go out and try it and tell me what happens. And I haven't. That was on maybe Tuesday. I have not heard back from her yet.
Okay.
Hello?
Yeah, they're supposed to allow the 1099 to file for unemployment, but I don't know when.
Right. Anybody? Right. That's right. It just hasn't. What I do know, what Governor or Lieutenant Governor Husted said was, it can be retroactive back to January 27th of 2020, assuming you were unemployed at that time, and the period goes for 39 weeks. So that's about as much information as we know.
Yeah, see, what he brought up what scares me the most is I got like 19 horses and I own all the horses that I train. So that's kind of what scares me. You know, the stimulus will help you, but it's only going to help you so long.
Someone's speaking in the background, and I did not hear where you're at.
Yeah. Hey guys, if we could limit the speaking in the background so that we can hear the question, that'd be super great.
Yeah.
Say that again.
What you said, what he said, what scares me the most is like I got 19 horses and I own all the horses that I train, and you know the stimulus package is only going to help you for like so long, without racing it for people that own their own horses.
That's why I said what I said was going to have. People are going to start abandoning the horses, and it will happen.
Yeah, the thing is, people's going to sell horses to feed other horses, and then when they start back racing, there won't be enough horses to race. But, you know, right now, the market on even selling your horses, not very much, you know, because nobody wants to sell a horse right now.
Nope. Almost ain't paying nothing. I'm not trying to start anything, but they're not. But what I'm worried about is all the animals and stuff being left behind, and it will happen. I know HHA is listening, and I'm not trying to start anything, but it will happen that people, they can't feed their horses. They're just going to let them go, and they're going to walk away from them. And there's no outlet.
Yeah.
I think something that hasn't been really discussed yet, with trainers in particular, and the racing / agricultural elimination from these funds that are being dispersed. As a trainer, when you're racing, and that's totally different from when you're training horses. And I don't think that falls underneath the agricultural part of this elimination of money, just because you're self-contracting.
Could be. I mean, that's a good point. That's a good point. And again, my apologies. I don't know the answer to that, but that certainly, I think, to the extent that any of you are looking to get assistance from this, to come up with substantiation and an angle that you can go and apply for to get funding is certainly not unreasonable. And again, to work with, whether it's your accountant or your attorney, to really understand the ins and outs of the SBA. And I will tell you, the SBA is typically a banking thing. Never in my million years did I think as a CPA I would be reading 880 pages of SBA law. If you would have told me that 2 weeks ago, I would have told you you're crazy. But I do agree that I think that depending on your circumstance, if there's a way that you can work yourself out of some of the nitty gritty in the SBA law to try and get some funding, I mean, go for it. I think it's worth a shot, you know.
Yeah. Well, the USDA loans is dealing with assets, and there was a gentleman from Illinois that's basically stating, says here, that the USDA can have loan guarantees on equipment, racehorses, mares, complete farms, and so forth. So I guess that question would be, from an asset standpoint, what's your take on the USDA loans, and have you investigated that?
No, but I will. We have not looked into the USDA loans, but certainly I'm noting that, and we absolutely will, because that could be a very good avenue for assistance.
Thank
what
you.
is a USDA loan? So I'm stupid, so I'm asking that. So if he can could give a little bit more information, it would be appreciative, because I don't know what a USDA loan is.
United States Department of Agriculture. We're basically considered to be an agribusiness, at least here in the state of Illinois, but the USDA is the national. So I'd recommend you contact the Ohio, state branch, like we have here in Illinois. We have the Illinois Department of Agriculture. And I guess, like I said, people have to scramble. The federal loans through the banks is tomorrow. But like this woman is saying, there must be another avenue for your assets. Everybody has equipment. Everybody has equipment that depreciates over time. So you might be able to do a loophole, like she's saying, for loans for assets that depreciate.
So certainly, so ours would be the ODA, so the whether it would be the Ohio Department of Agriculture. So certainly, if there are provisions out there relating to this, the ODA would be all over that, because that's all about agriculture, and that certainly includes the racing industry. We have not looked into that, and we haven't, and there hasn't been any discussion, at least that's come out about it, nor has the governor spoke about it. So we didn't look into that. But certainly, that's a very good point, and we can do that.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Will you relay that information to the OHHA so they can put that on their website when you find out an answer to something?
Oh, of course. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I promised that this would just be an hour, and we've just come up on an hour. You know, I'm happy to answer more questions, but my takeaways from it are really learning, reaching out to your lender. Even tonight, like I said, I promise they're all working, because this is, we're all waiting to get information on this. Reach out to them about this PPP program. As soon as there is information about self-employed people and the unemployment application, we will get that, and I will get it to Renee to get up on the website, as well as we work pretty closely with the folks at the ODA. The Delaware Ag Society is pretty involved in that. So so I can reach out to them and say what they have to offer, and we can get that posted as well. We'll post that, get it to Renee, as well as getting it on the OFMA website as soon as we know it. I can't promise that will be tomorrow. In our world, we think tomorrow the world's going to blow up at 9:01 in the morning with all these people trying to get online. That's a joke, but certainly soon after that, I will look into that and help out with whatever way we can.
I appreciate it, but like we said, we have a network, and we're going to get it out ourselves. So horsemen that are here, let's use Facebook, text messages, get the word out, and let's try to help each other.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent idea. That's what it's about.
If horsemen need help or something before they abandon, or if anybody, and I'm not saying anybody's on here or do anything like that, please contact the OHA. Maybe they can help out or give you an avenue to help out before you decide to do something like that.
We actually have.
I agree 100.
Trainers. We've had trainers and owners who have donated some items that I have a list of, and yes, for sure we do. That's the one thing that all of us with the OHHA are on the lookout for, the horsemen that we know, to spread the word. We do not want to see obvious signs of abuse and neglect going on, and we want to head it off at the pass.
Yep, that's why I brought it up.
And I will say, I have been contacted by a few people. This is Rod Elms, by the way. I have been contacted by a few horsemen saying they're getting to that point where it's going to be iffy. So I continue to say, I welcome your phone calls and text messages, and I will help you out however I can, whether it be my own money or somebody else jumping in and helping me with it. So, and you know, Amy, I know, was working with Bill Rhodes over at Northfield, and I contacted Bill earlier. He's willing to help how he can as well. So reach out to somebody if you're in that situation where you think maybe you're not going to make it through next week or something like that. Just be aware of that.
Yeah, don't let an animal starve, guys. He can't do nothing. They can't get out and take care of themselves. You'd be better off to take them out somewhere in the woods and let them run. At least they can eat grass.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for being on the call. I hope there was something informative out of it. There's a lot of things, and we know that hourly things are changing, and we're all doing our best to keep everybody updated and informed. But certainly, as the things that we talked about today, once that comes to light, we'll get it on our website, as well as to get it to OHHA so they can post it. That way you can have a reference point.
Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, guys. Have a good evening. Thank you.